So there's this very popular advice that goes around the internet that basically says you should treat school like a 9 to 5 job. So it's somewhere you turn up to, and from 9 to 5s for 8 hours, you get all your homework done, you get all your study done, so that after school and before school, you can chill, you can do whatever you want, you work hard. And look, I like the attitude to this advice. It's like turn up and get the work done no matter what. But at least for me, this advice never worked for me. So, so first of all, learning, focusing in class was completely useless, especially if the teacher was bad, and most of my teachers were bad. But even if the teacher was good, what would happen is I'd get lost for like 5 minutes. I'd go mindless thinking about, video games or a girl I had a crush on something or something. And then I'd come back to the class 5 minutes later and I'd be completely lost. I'd have no idea what's going on. And then for the rest of the class, I'd be completely lost. Because honestly, my attention span is pretty screwed even now to this day. And honestly, looking back to those times when I was bored in class, look, I've had some terrible experiences in my life. I've gone through heartbreak, I've broken my foot or whatever. And one of the worst feelings in the entire world is honestly being bored in class. It's literally one of the most painful experiences any human being can experience. Like, I would be sitting there and I'd look at the time and I'd think, okay, we got 40 minutes left. That's 10 minutes 4 times. So I just have to get through 5 minutes twice, 4 times. Okay, we got this. You'd be doing calculations just to get through the pain. And the other reason why I could not do this 9 to 5 thing at school is we would get free periods. In high school, we get free periods, we get lunch. And during university, I'd have free time as well. But during those times, it was pretty much impossible to study. I'd be sitting in the library in high school, for example, during the free period, and no one else who had a free period at the time would be studying. Everyone would be screaming, having fun, playing around. No one would be studying. And when you're in an environment where no one around you is studying, it's pretty much impossible to study as well. So, I wasn't even studying during those periods. I was just like messing around, having fun with my friends and stuff. So basically, the hours during school were pretty much useless for getting any learning or any studying done. And after school, I was just completely tired. I could not study. So how do we handle this situation? How do we study during school, focus during school? Well, luckily I figured it out and I'm going to share it with you. Okay, so the first tip I'm going to give you is going to be really, really huge. This is honestly one of the things I did all the time that made me actually able to learn in school. And you're going to hear this tip and you're going to be like, well, yeah, that's obvious. But I guarantee 99% of people are not going to be able to do this. So listen closely. So the tip is to learn the material before class. Now here's the problem. The teacher might be very, very boring. You have to really, really pay a lot of attention to learning class. You can't pause the teacher. You can't rewind the teacher. Basically, you can't go at your own pace. You can't learn in your own way. So the thing is, learning in class actually takes a lot more effort. So actually what I realized is learning on your own is actually a lot more enjoyable. You can learn how you want. You can learn at your own pace. Like me personally, I'm a pretty slow learner. If I'm going to rewatch a lecture, I'm going to be rewinding a ton of times. I'm going to be pausing a ton of times. Many other people in my class, they were like watching lectures on like 6 times speed. They were like downloading the lectures onto VLC and playing them at like 10 times speed. I was playing them on 1 time speed because I could not go any faster. And it could be because I was doing pretty hard subjects in engineering, but it was also because I was a pretty slow learner and I would always pause and go back. So in class, you can't learn at your own pace. You can't learn in your own way. Go watch the video I made, How to Enjoy Studying. I also talk about how you can use other resources to study. For example, you can use YouTube, you can use different textbooks, you can learn in your own way, you can really slow down and make sure you understand the concepts. So I think learning on your own is a lot more enjoyable. And then if you learn the material on your own, you don't even have to learn it super deep. You just have to learn it to like a basic level. And then when you go to class to learn that material, class becomes review. So now you're not going to class to learn this stuff for the first time. You're going to class to get like a second round of learning. So even if you just kind of like basically understand the concepts when you learn it on your own, when you go to class, you're going to be able to go much more deeper because you're going to kind of understand already the general thing of what's going on. So even if you spend a little bit of time reviewing the material before class, it can have a huge benefit. And I'll tell you in a second why this is really, really hard to do, but it's an amazing feeling when you're in class and you're just like so confident. Like the teacher is like, whatever the teacher says, you're like, oh, I know what he's going to say next. The teacher would hype something up. The teacher would go, okay, and the result of this entire thing, does anyone know? And he'd ask a question and you put your hand up and, you'd answer the question confidently. It's a really good feeling. Like, I know it sounds cringe as hell, but, when I was messing around, I would like mess around with my friend or whatever, we'd be having fun. and the teacher would be like, "Hey, Penrose, what's the answer to this question?" You know, thinking that I wasn't paying attention. Then I'd look at the board, look at the question, and I'd answer it because I already knew the material beforehand. And I just, you know, the teacher would try to embarrass me, but I'd be like, boom, way ahead of you. And so that feeling is like amazing as well. You know, so when you have that confidence, when you have that competence in class, you don't have to pay much attention. You don't have to use a lot of energy. You can kind of like half be paying attention, and it's going to be like a review session. Basically, you get 2 reviews in one. So option number 1 is to learn the material in class where you probably won't even learn it and it's going to be very difficult to learn. And then you have to learn it again after class, or just learn it for the first time before class and then make learning in class the review. And the crazy thing is, you know how you usually leave class like feeling drained, feeling dead? If you like are super confident in class, if you don't use a ton of energy to actually focus in class, you actually leave class feeling energized, because having a ton of like feeling confident in class and being able to answer all the questions boosts your energy and makes you feel so good. It raises your state. And the other benefit is it'll make the girls in your class fall in love with you. Like I would do this and the girls would come to me after class asking me for my number. I'm just kidding. But anyway, the hard thing about doing this is you have to study in your own time. Like you might be thinking, oh bro, I can't learn things without someone teaching me. Like this was a big thing. People would say they went to lectures because they couldn't learn on their own, because they needed a teacher to actually like tell them the things and teach it to them. They couldn't learn things on their own. And here's the thing that you need to realize. Learning is actually a skill. So we're all different levels in the skills. Some of us can learn better than others, but learning, your ability to learn something on your own, is a skill. And if you never cultivate this skill, if you never practice learning on your own, then you're going to struggle to learn fitness. You're going to struggle to learn in your career. You're going to struggle to learn anything you want in your life. So actually, if you learn before class and you teach yourself how to learn and you learn it on your own, you develop the ability to learn. You learn how to learn. And the other thing is 99% of students can only study when there's a deadline looming above them. Like they've got an exam in 2 days, suddenly they're studying 6 hours a day. And it's not because they're disciplined and they can study 6 hours a day. It's because they've got this deadline looming above them that pushes them and motivates them to study. So if you're studying 3 hours a day, 4 hours a day because you've got a deadline in a couple days, that's not real focus. That's not real learning. That's not real motivation. I mean, discipline. Real discipline is when you have no deadline coming, you don't feel like studying, and you do it anyway. So that's why if you do what I'm saying here, you will develop real discipline. Because the thing you need to realize is discipline is a skill. Basically, discipline is the ability to sit down and do study when there's no deadline looming above you, when there's nothing, like when you have no motivation to do it. That's discipline. And discipline is a skill. It's like a muscle. The more you learn it, the more you use discipline, the better it gets. And so if you get really, really good at being disciplined, it bleeds into all other areas of your life. If you're disciplined in school and you learn the material before class, before there's a deadline, you can become disciplined in your fitness habits. You can be consistent in the gym. You can be disciplined, in your work, in your career. You can be disciplined in making your own business. So yeah, it might be a bit harder to learn on your own, but that's the point. It's meant to be hard. It's a skill that you're meant to develop, and after time, it'll become a lot easier learning on your own. So I'll tell you a bit later how to do this more in depth, but that's the crazy thing. Students seem disciplined. That they're waking up at 6 a.m. They're going to class from 7 to 3. They're doing, 6 hours of homework, but they're not actually disciplined because other people are telling them what to do. There's a deadline looming above. Okay, the next thing I want to say here is I want to challenge the idea of learning during school. I think studying is not the only thing that you have to do during school, because I think there are other priorities you can have in your life that will develop you. So a big one is socializing. So, there's a lot of advice where it's like, okay, use your free periods, use the free time between lectures to study, use the free periods during school to study, use lunch to study. And I guess I was kind of like that. Like there was a period of about 45 minutes before school where I would sit in the classroom on my own and learn Italian. That was the main thing I was learning at the time. And seemed good on paper, like I learned a lot of Italian, but I could have spent that time going down to the common room where everyone was and socializing with all those people. And in a weird way, socializing for 45 minutes every morning would have developed me a lot more than just learning Italian for 45 minutes a day. Because talking to new people is hard, it's challenging, it's difficult. Forcing yourself to have deeper conversations with people in your class is hard, it's challenging. So it actually develops you in a way that you don't actually realize. You know, you're pushing yourself outside your comfort zone. You're, you know, going deeper, making connections with people. So I do think that it's possible to have other priorities apart from just study. So if you want to use your lunchtime, your free periods to socialize, talk to new people. Now, this doesn't mean like, you know, talk to your same friends about the same topics you always talk about. That's fine too. You can do that too. But I mean like also challenging yourself, trying to talk to new students in your class, trying to, you know, go deeper with certain students, you know, like during lunchtime, I would literally just walk. If my two best friends weren't free during lunchtime, I would just walk around doing nothing, or I'd pretend to be working on my laptop. But what I could have done is I could have challenged myself to talk to new people, at least like, you know, or like tried to join a sport people were playing, tried to, you know, sit at a new lunch table or something like that. Like very simple challenges. Like I didn't have to, you know, cold approach the hottest girl in school or something, but I could have at least had a basic, simple conversation with a new person. And that actually, in a weird way, would have developed me a lot more than doing like a deep work session for 1 hour. So there are other ways to develop during school outside of just studying. That's the second thing I want to say. And the third thing here, this is a very quick one, but if you're trying to learn in class, you should actually focus on learning. The mistake most students make is they focus on like copying notes, trying to like write down everything that's going on. Like there's a lecture slide on the board, they literally just write word for word what's going on. It takes zero brain cells to just copy and paste what's going on the lecture slide into your notebook. Learning actually takes effort. You should be sitting there like racking your brain trying to understand the concepts. So me personally in class, I don't even take notes. And it got to the point where I don't know how loud that police is. I'm not sure how loud that was. I guess we'll see when I rewatch this. But this is if you don't listen to that first tip I said where you should learn before class. But okay, the final tip here, this is gonna like accumulate everything I said, is you need to develop a deep work habit. Because here's the final thing: deep work, your ability to focus, is a skill. And I'm gonna say some new things here, but if you want to learn before class, you need to be able to focus on your own. You need to be able to develop a deep work habit. So if you're just kind of like half focusing in class, you know, half focusing after school when you study, you're going to get very, very little actual like study and learning done. If you like sit down for like 1 hour, 2 hours a day and you focus at your full capacity, you know, your eyes are glued to the screen and you literally do a deep work session, you can get literally a whole day's work done in like 1 to 2 hours. So honestly, you don't need to do deep work for like 8 hours a day. 2 hours a day, honestly, will push you very, very far. If you can focus at full capacity for like 1 to 2 hours a day, it will push you very, very far. So here's a mindset I want to give you when it comes to deep work. Like, you know how I said earlier, there's the tip, treat your school day like a 9 to 5 job. The tip here is treat your deep work period like a 9 to 5 job. So have a set time every single day where you do your deep work block. Ideally at the same time every single day. Make it like an hour or two to start off. And no matter what, no matter how you feel, no matter the weather, no matter what, you sit down for your deep work block. You put your body into your seat. You know, your mind might go to another world. You might not be able to focus. You might not feel inspired, but you just turn up. That's the attitude you need to have. It's like a 9 to 5 job. So say for example, every night at 7 p.m., you're gonna sit down for 2 hours and do a study period. Then every single day, no matter how you feel, at 7 p.m. you sit down and you do that deep work block. You make it a ritual. You make it like your 9 to 5 job. And I learned this from the book The War of Art by Steven Pressfield. Basically, it's the cure to procrastination. It's called going pro, where you basically approach your deep work block like a professional, like it's your job. Like I do that with these videos. Like when I'm writing these videos, that's the hardest part of doing it. Many days I don't feel inspired. I don't write anything. Like yesterday I wrote like a 30-minute video and I deleted it afterwards because I thought it was terrible. But some days I have zero inspiration. Other days I'm super inspired. But the point is I treat it like a 9 to 5 job. I turn up every single day, no matter how I feel. My mind might be somewhere else, but my body is in the ship, in the deep work block. And that's how you need to treat your deep work habit. And yeah, 100% you can develop this deep work habit on your own. But if you want my personal one-to-one help with developing your deep work habit, I will help you very, very intensely. I will keep you accountable. If you're interested, check out the first link in the description. But apart from that, see you later.